In Midsomer Magna, people connected to a millionaire's environmental scheme and an illegal bird egg market are getting murdered. Can Barnaby and Troy solve the case before the suspects fly the coop? We're talking about some big unanswered questions.
The history of falconry.
And Troy's love life in this episode of
Welcome to Midsummer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsummer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long running hit TV show, Midsummer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me, as always, is my co host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric. We are talking about Birds of Prey, the fifth episode of the sixth series. It originally aired on January 31st, 2003. It was directed by Jeremy Silbertson and written by Michael Russell. Let's get those scooters out.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
There he is.
Where?
No, not the bird, Arthur and Moorcroft. By the Toyota. Very serious egg dealer. I've been watching him for some time. The Eggman.
It's night in Midsomer Magna, and rare book dealer Julian Shepherd sneaks onto the Edmonton estate. As he approaches the house, he hears Mallory Edmonton talking to accountant/lawyer Major George Hamilton about keeping her husband Charles out of the way for a week, as well as Julian's calls to him. Julian makes his way to the back of the hall where there is some scaffolding just conveniently there, climbs up and makes his way to the window of Charles's room, where Charles is busy watching his trains go around. He lets Julian in, and Julian tells him he needs back the money he invested in Charles's new business, a completely fuelless system of transport. If he doesn't get the money back, he's going to be bankrupt, but Mallory and George have ignored his repeated requests. However, Charles doesn't seem to comprehend, and Julian gradually realizes that he is not all there. Julian returns to his own home where he considers killing himself, but instead has a bath and a think. While in the tub, someone sneaks into the bathroom and the lights go out. Cue the theme. The next morning, Eleanor and Jane McPherson attempt to get breakfast ready for their boarder, Eddie Darwin. Unfortunately, when he doesn't get his pork sausages, he smashes his plate on the floor and walks out. Meanwhile, Troy is helping the wildlife department on a stakeout, a job that he is happy to do when he meets his partner, the comely wildlife liaison officer PC Sarah Pierce. At the hall, Mallory's sister, Dr. Naomi Sinclair, shows up to help sedate Charles, who has Alzheimer's. Although the sedation seems to be more for Mallory's benefit than Charles, because Charles wants to have a press conference to announce his venture. Finally, a lone fisherman in the river manages to hook something big, a sunken car with Julian's body inside. PC Angel brings in Barnaby and tells him the car went into the drink sometime in the night. There are no skid marks, but it looks like he drowned himself. Julian's cleaning lady tells him that he had been suicidal, so this isn't that much of a shock to her. Apparently, he had been going downhill for a while. His wife left him and took the kids, and his business was in the toilet. Barnaby visits the Edmontons because Julian had been calling them a number of times the day before. He interrupts Mallory, who is training a hawk on her lawn, as you do, and she says Julian wanted to talk to Charles, but then lies and says Charles is away. She suggests he go speak to George, who tells him that Julian had been on the verge of a breakdown and wanted his money back. And George was, planning to give it back today if only he hadn't killed himself, gosh darn it. Meanwhile, Troy and Pierce watch Darwin interact with Sean Moorcroft, an illegal bird egg dealer known as the Eggman. Darwin is a birder and a collector of hawk eggs, and he is looking for an osprey egg to complete his collection. The Eggman offers him a deal. Sneak onto the Edmonton property and steal some of the fertilized eggs Mallory has. The osprey egg is his. Darwin agrees, and the Eggman warns him that if he screws up, he knows too much to stay healthy. Darwin goes home and tortures the McPhersons some more before taking their money and heading out. Fuller tells Barnaby that Julian did indeed drown, but there's no way to know for sure if it was suicide or murder. However, he does note that Julian had not rinsed out some conditioner, which causes Barnaby to wonder if a suicidal person would bother washing their hair. That night, Joyce tries to plan an upcoming African vacation with Tom, but all he can do is talk about George's collection of mementos from his decades on the continent. Then Joyce goes off for a bath and mentions to Tom that he needs to clean up the tub more often, which makes him think. Darwin sneaks onto the Edmonton estate and heads straight for the hawk coops. The birds immediately start making noise as he tries to steal the eggs, so he opens one of those large freezers that throw meat at them and notices Charles' body inside it. He freaks and runs out of the estate, and is then chased down by a car which strikes him before crashing into a ditch. While the unseen driver attempts to get the car out, Darwin walks off and makes his way to the McPhersons. Noticing his injuries, they ask if he wants a doctor, but he says no. Meanwhile, George returns home and tells his wife that everything is under control, and she reminds him that they are in this together, a fact he doesn't really care for. The next day, Barnaby brings Troy back to help with the investigation and takes him to Julian's, where a package from the Edmonton Corporation has been delivered. While Troy opens it, Barnaby checks out the bathroom and discovers that Julian, who was never a tidy person, has a completely cleaned and bleached bathroom. The housekeeper claims she didn't clean it, so who did? Inside the package was a kick scooter. Is this Charles's futuristic invention? Eleanor checks in on Darwin, finds him dead. They call in a local GP, who then tells Barnaby and Troy about the body. Darwin's cause of death was internal bleeding, and his body is heavily bruised. Troy recognizes him from the surveillance and finds his collection of eggs. Eleanor recounts his movements to them, leaving out a few key details. Jane recognizes the name Moorcroft and says Darwin was very knowledgeable about birds and didn't like talking about his eggs because they were very, very valuable and very, very illegal. Charles's dead body is now in his bed, and Mallory and Naomi sit with it. Mallory isn't grieving that much because she says Alzheimer's took the man she loved away years ago. She wants the funeral as soon as possible, so the next day. The other investors have also received the scooters, and they confront George, saying Charles was bankrupt, but George pretends to know nothing. He later reports to Mallory that it's all done. Barnaby and Troy bring in Pierce, and they head to Moorcroft's to bring him in. He tries to run for it, but Troy captures him with a simple tripping. He first denies knowing Darwin, and then claims they just had a drink. But there are bloodstains in his car, and they find a hawk feather that matches one on Darwin's body. Moorcroft admits to the deal with Darwin and driving him to the Edmontons. But when he picked a clearly injured Darwin up, Darwin said he had just fallen off a wall. The detectives go to Casement Hall and look around, but they find the eggs still there, and Mallory says the birds were not disturbed. Still, Barnaby knows Darwin was here, and he can't figure out why he didn't take the eggs. George places a call that night to someone and demands more money. He celebrates a successful blackmail by doing an African dance while his wife watches. Is that what that was?
Maybe.
Tourist info. We are visiting Midsomer Magna for our fifth and final time. After spending time here with King's Crystal, they seek him here, destroying Angel and Hidden Depths. Magna is a very well-to-do part of Midsomer, home to a closed crystal factory, a secret empty wine cellar, a village fete with a body count, and an open-air theater great for British weather. The town is easy to navigate by bike or kick scooter. Just be careful when you drive.
The Edmonton's estate Casement Hall is played by Britwell House in Britwell Salome, Oxfordshire. It's a Georgian house built in the 1720s with additions added in the 19th and 20th centuries. It was also in Death and Chorus as Hartsmead House. Greatstone House in Cuddington, Buckinghamshire, stood in for the home of the McPherson sisters and their horrible boarder, Eddie Darwin. It's a Grade 2 listed building.
What's a Grade 2 listed building mean?
It's not a Grade 1 listed building. So it has some historical value, but the Grade 1s are the really top-notch ones. So
I have expected you to just go, it's not a Grade 1 building, and then just leave it as that.
It's not a Grade 1 listed building, okay?
All right, so I gotta say, overall, I found this to be a decent episode, but I felt it should have been a little more exciting.
I agree. I think there's some things in this that are kind of weird. It breaks some rules, which I'm usually fine with, but there's a lot of things that needed to be either explained a little bit more, or we earlier had a discussion over the name of the estate because it's only mentioned once, and so there's a lot of things that seem to have been left out. I don't know if they were in the script and didn't make it into the final filming or what, but there's a lot of stuff that just isn't explained as well as it should be.
No, and we will highlight all that in the second half. I agree with you that this is not your usual episode. It does have a lot of seemingly unconnected threads that do eventually get kind of woven together a little bit as the episode kind of goes on. It's frankly, an unfulfilling episode, I think, over.
Yeah.
We start with Julian's murder, and it's not really a strange one. It's just a simple drowning that they make to look like a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's a device that I've seen. I think after watching this episode, I happened to see it in 3 other British murder mysteries. So it's pretty common. I will say he apparently was pretty open with his suicidal mindset with pretty much everyone. George knew about it. The cleaning lady knew about it.
Even Constable Angel knew about it.
Oh, everyone knows this guy was going to off himself.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything though because you mind your business.
Yeah.
When he climbs the scaffolding,
Yeah.
did he really think that scaffolding is quiet?
He's gonna sneak into that house
And then
through the very noisy scaffolding.
yeah, and then knocks a board straight into a wheelbarrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Mallory just goes, "Huh?" and then doesn't check on it.
Everybody's grown up in the South knows you do not investigate anything that goes on outside in the dark. It could be the Mothman or aliens.
Mallory doesn't look like the type who believes in a Mothman. Is it the Midsomer Mothman?
The Midsomer Mothman. Hey, they haven't had that episode yet.
I thought the scene where he actually takes the razor blade to his wrists was a little harrowing.
Yeah.
In a way that it really stood out to me, especially at the top of this episode.
We don't see a whole lot of suicidal ideations and people, getting ready to do it until, like the end when they jump out a window or something because they've just been caught as a murderer. But so it is kind of unusual. It also sets up that, we do know that he was suicidal, and therefore it does set up the idea that all the police, his cleaner, everybody would think that he was indeed suicidal. So,
Yeah.
how the murderer kind of knew he was, we'll discuss at the very end, but
They talk a little bit about Julian was a guy who apparently made a lot of bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was like opening up a bookstore.
Hey, we love all of our bookstore owners, but nobody's getting rich on that.
No, I love, especially if it's rare books.
Yeah.
No, I love my bookstores, but it's like strong financial decision. No, labor of love. Yes.
Yes.
I also like when Barnaby is checking out his bedroom. Did you just notice that giant bottle of booze just sitting on a table in there? Like, there wasn't any cups or anything like that. It was just the bottle of booze. And when Barnaby is checking out the bathroom, I can't tell if he was noticing how clean the bathroom was or just the flower pattern on the walls. Wow.
There was a lot of floral wallpaper in this episode that really stuck out. It was quite the floral extravaganza on the walls in this one, because Eddie Darwin's at the McPherson's house, his room was all very floral.
Yeah, but it didn't pop the way those roses.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to use that bathroom every day, I think I'd probably go insane. I probably would start thinking about taking a razor to my wrists. That fisherman, huh? He's got quite the fish story.
Oh yeah.
I once caught a body this big.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting was, and kind of very telling in a way, was when Charles is looking out his window, he grabs hold of the bars that are on the window. Julian, still climbed through the window, so obviously it wasn't that much of a turn to get out, but he does seem very much imprisoned in that room because of the bars, and that one scene where he's grabbing the bars really puts that home to it. And Alzheimer's patients, as I have known, because I visiting my dad at an Alzheimer's hospital, they have been known to wander. They will one night this one guy got out through the basement and my brother found him wandering on the street, so I had to and called me, so I had to coordinate a rescue there. But but still, he could have gotten out through those bars.
Yep.
If he wanted to.
I mean, do Alzheimer's patients also tend to climb out through attic windows and then shimmy down scaffolding?
Probably not that much, but who knows? You never know. Every Alzheimer patient is different.
This is true. And then, Mallory really loves those birds.
Oh, yeah.
We should talk a little more about Mallory and her bird affair. But first, why don't you take us through the history of falconry?
Okay. It's hard to date when humans first started hunting with birds of prey. Humans have been depicted with raptors for thousands of years, with some of the oldest depictions coming from Western Mongolia around 2000 BCE. Since the falcon was the symbolic bird of ancient Mongol tribes, these depictions may be symbolic rather than depicting the sport of falconry. However, by the 7th century BCE, falconry was established enough in China for records to describe it. From there, it moved through Central Asia and into northern Africa and southern Europe. In the 4th century, Aristotle described boys in Thrace, where Greece, Turkey, and Bulgaria meet, hunting small birds with hawks. Around the same time, the Nihon Shoki, sometimes translated as the Chronicles of Japan, described hawking arriving in Japan from the Korean kingdom of Baekje. It also became extremely popular on the Arabian Peninsula. Over the next centuries, falconry moved further into Europe, with the Goths learning it from the Sarmatians of Central Asia and the Gallic tribes introducing it to Rome. Falconry was increasingly mentioned in texts, such as the Quran, where prey caught by trained dogs and falcons was considered halal, as well as in poems and manuals. By the 9th century CE, falconry had become popular in Anglo-Saxon England, and it's mentioned in the 10th century poem, The Battle of Maldon. King Harold II, the last crowned Anglo-Saxon king of England, was reputed to have owned the largest collection of books on falconry in all of Europe, and was depicted on the Bayeux tapestry with a hawk. Falconry was also popular with the Normans, who distinguished falconry from hawking, with the former being practiced on horseback while the latter was done on foot. 13th century Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II spent the last years of his life writing a treatise on the art of hunting with birds called De Arte Venandi cum Avibus, widely accepted as the first comprehensive book on falconry. Falconry remained a popular subject of books and treatises from Japan to Spain, and it was a very popular sport among the nobility as well as royals. Even women participated and often excelled at the sport. Non-nobles may also have practiced falconry, but there is less on record about that, and they certainly didn't have paintings made of them with their hawks. Commoners were also prohibited from hunting on particular lands so that the rich people had no competition for game. However, the practice of falconry as a practical method of hunting waned in the late 18th and early 19th centuries as firearms became a more popular method of hunting. However, it had a resurgence in the UK about 100 years later, and the Hawking Club was formed in Great Britain in 1864, the first of many established in the UK and Europe. By this time, falconry had become popular in the United States. In the 20th century, falconry was threatened by the endangered status of many of the birds of prey. The insecticide DDT was responsible for many environmental ills, one of which was killing birds such as the peregrine falcon, which was put on the endangered species list in 1970. 2 years later, DDT was banned in the US, and the peregrine falcon was removed from the endangered species list in 1999. In 2010, UNESCO added falconry to its representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. 11 countries, from South Korea to Morocco, nominated it as an important element of their culture. 24 countries had been added to the list for falconry by 2021, making it the largest multinational element on the list, spread across Asia, Europe, and Northern Africa. Falconry has been featured in the Tales of Count Lucanor and the Decameron, both from the 14th century, The Once and Future King by T.H. White, Wes Anderson's movie The Royal Tenenbaums, the fantasy film Lady Hawk, the memoir H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald, and in the works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Terry Pratchett, Mercedes Lackey, Stephen King, and C.J. Box. A Will Forte recurring sketch on Saturday Night Live featured a falconer who finds himself in mortal peril before being rescued by his loyal falcon, Donald. The bird that Mallory is holding, that Barnaby calls beautiful, is a Harris's hawk, a native of the Americas, especially Mexico and South America. They have become increasingly used in falconry since the 1980s and are now the most popular hawk outside of Asia. They are social and one of the easiest to train. They are used to remove smaller birds and even pigeons from places like Trafalgar Square, the Wimbledon tennis courts, airports, landfills, resorts, and industrial sites.
The birds were very beautiful in this episode.
Yeah, but I could tell the actress is Kate Buffrey. She's always holding usually one of the Harris's hawks rather than the peregrine or one of the others. because it is the easiest one to work with. So I did notice that as I was walking. And plus, it is a very striking bird.
And if she breaks, if she breaks the peregrine, you got to pay for that. I also found it to be the classic depiction of someone who likes animals more than they like human beings. Mallory was a real charmer. Do you want to do the cast highlights?
Sure. Kate Buffery was bird lover Mallory Edmonton. Buffery received an Olivier nomination in 1983 for her role in Daisy Pulls It Off. On screen, she's appeared in Casualty, Heartbeat, Wish Me Luck, and Trial and Retribution. She has spoken out about the inequality for women in the arts and has taught Shakespeare masterclasses at the National Youth Theatre. She is divorced from the director Roger Michell, best known for making the film Notting Hill. You think she's the basis for the Julia Roberts character? David Calder was future Dancing with the Stars contestant George Hamilton. Yeah, I think he'll lose easily. He's appeared in The World Is Not Enough, Widows, Star Cops, and Rush. Calder appeared in a 1979 public information film as a police officer asking people how they would get into their own home if they lost their keys. He also wrote a children's book in the 90s called The Dragon Slayer's Apprentice. Alexander Gilbreth played totally ethical Dr. Naomi Sinclair. Gilbreth is a noted RSC actor who received an Olivier nomination for her role as Olivia in Twelfth Night. She's appeared in Tulip Fever, Monarch of the Glen, and Becoming Elizabeth. In 2000, she played Juliet to David Tennant's Romeo, and a still of their performance is on the cover of the Oxford Schools edition of the play. Sheila Shan Gibbs was cocoa enthusiast Jane McPherson. Gibbs hails from Scotland and graduated RADA in 1949. She had roles in David Copperfield, The Old Curiosity Shop, The 7% Solution, and Casualty. She was married to the actor Timothy Bateson, who appeared 3 times on Midsomer as the lawyer James Jocelyn. Candida Benson was the stopper of egg thieves PC's Sarah Pierce. She's appeared in Waking the Dead, Holby City, Parade's End, and The Crown, where she played Queen Mary. Trevor Cooper played the Eggman Sean Moorcroft. He actually graduated school with a degree in law and taught for 2 years before making the switch to acting. His specialty was, in his own words, bald fat blokes. He's appeared in Star Cops, The Wrong Mans, Downton Abbey, and The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret. Richard Todd appeared as Alzheimer's sufferer Charles Edmonton. This was kind of a fun cameo role for him, as Todd was a big star in the 50s and 60s British film industry, appearing in Stage Fright, Dam Busters, The Longest Day, and The Hasty Heart, which earned him Golden Globes and Academy Award nominations for Best Actor. He served in World War II and actually fought in the D-Day landings. He passed away in 2009. Kenneth Gilbert was bad investor Hilary Carlton. He had a 50-year career as an actor, appearing in Crossroads, Testament of Youth, and Wolf's Head, The Legend of Robin Hood. He passed away in 2015. Bernard Gallagher was the other bad investor, Vernon Surtees. He appeared in Casualty, Heartbeat, The Royal, and Downton Abbey. He passed away in 2016. Gemma Churchill played super knowledgeable cleaning lady Maisie Cullen. She's appeared in Alma's Not Normal, Gwed, Upstairs Downstairs, and Agatha Raisin.
We had a few return visitors this week as well. Rosalind Knight played abused homeowner Eleanor McPherson. Talked about her when we did A Sacred Trust. She had a 70-year career, which started with an uncredited role in Laurence Olivier's Richard III all the way back in 1955. She was in Tom Jones, Nicholas Nickleby, Coronation Street, Jeeves and Wooster, Only Fools and Horses, and The Crown. She passed away in 2020. Janet Maw was pyromaniac wife Eileen Hamilton. She's also in Murder on St. Mally's Day. She got the lead in her second on-screen role for the 1978 adaptation of Hardy's Mayor of Casterbridge with Alan Bates. Talk about a big coup. She went on to appear in Jackanory, The Barchester Chronicles, and Doctors. Robert Morgan was Bad Bather Julian Shepherd. We literally just saw him in Shot at Dawn. He's been in Nuns on the Run, Holding On, Watergate, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Played the lawyer for those of you who listened to the last episode.
Harry Costello played local GP Dr. Robert Shaw. He is also in Ghosts of Christmas Past. Now, he's done character work in Shakespeare in Love, Foyle's War, Sherlock, and Dark Martin. Edward Clayton was the butcher who should have had some pork sausages. He's also in Echoes of the Dead. He had a long career in character work, appearing in soaps like Crossroads and Coronation Street, as well as The Bill and Arthur and George. Neville Phillips played the vicar at the funeral. He's been in Faithful Until Death, Garden of Death, Dark Autumn, Vixen's Run, and The Black Book. He plays a vicar twice on this show and a priest once. But he also played the funeral vicar in a little film called 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Never heard of it.
Nicholas Pritchard was a solicitor. He's also in Death and Dust. He's appeared in Sammy and Rosie Get Laid, Alas, Smith and Jones, and Fergie and Andrew, Behind the Palace Doors.
I am not going to seek that one out.
Neil Conrich appears in his semi-regular role as Police Constable Angel. I believe this is his final time in the role.
Yes, it is.
He also appeared in The Brief, Bad Girls, Wallander, and Reuniting the Rubens, and currently he is a managing director at a voiceover agency. Tim Treloar played Thames Valley Constable. He's also in Secrets and Spies, The Fisher King, The Straw Woman, and Ghosts of Christmas Past. So he is best known for taking over the role of the Third Doctor, played by John Pertwee on TV, for a series of audio adventures starting in 2015. And that leaves our village star this week is none other than Anton Lesser, who played bullying bird lover Eddie Darwin. He is a return visitor, and we last saw him with an unflattering butt cut in Talking to the Dead. Lesser is a celebrated British character actor. He attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts and won the Bancroft Gold Medal as the most promising actor of the year when he graduated. He was a member of the RSC, where he played the likes of Romeo, Brutus, Hamlet, and Richard III. His first TV role was in the 1979 miniseries The Mill on the Floss. He's worked steadily ever since, appearing in Endeavour, Wolf Hall, The Crown, Dickensian, and in some tiny show called Game of Thrones, where he played Qyburn, the right-hand man of Cersei Lannister. He also just appeared in the show Andor, and his next major role will be in the Harry Potter TV series, playing the wand maker Garrick Ollivander. And yet, with all of this, somehow I think Darwin might be his most evil role. Leave those old ladies alone.
Yeah, he kind of specializes in these creepy characters that are a little kind of snake-like, little evil guys. Qyburn definitely is very evil in Game of Thrones, though his character in Endeavour, um, Chief Bright, Chief Inspector Bright, is kind of comes around and becomes more sympathetic as he gets used to Endeavor's way of doing things.
He's also in Andor. He plays a member of the like he's a commander in the Empire, where he plays kind of, again, it's a role of evil, but that kind of officiating, quiet, behind the scenes evil, as opposed to something like Qyburn, who is, well, no, that's actually Qyburn.
Qyburn.
Qyburn. Okay, we're gonna take a break here, and we'll be back in the second half of Birds of Prey.
Sikaleli Afrika Malupakan Yezu Pondowayo Yiswa Imidanda Soyetu Wako Siye Sikalela Go Siya Sikalela.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Birds of Prey.
He is dead, then? I suppose we ought to ask Dr. Robert Shaw to come and see him now.
Naomi has to fetch Mallory for Charles' funeral, finds her telling the birds. They have an awkward and suspicious exchange before they go to the funeral procession. Meanwhile, the detectives search Darwin's room and find a notebook where he kept all the details of his various deals to get eggs, so they have enough to round up the whole egg network. Eleanor and Jane come clean to Barnaby about the night of his death. Turns out Eleanor went in to check on him and helped him into his PJs. She saw the extent of his bruising, but did not call the doctor then, nor when he turned delirious and talked about finding a body in the freezer. Realizing he was talking about Charles' body, they raced to the funeral to stop the body from being cremated, making it in the nick of time. Now they have the proof the body had been frozen. George claims that Charles had been spending millions on weird development while having Alzheimer's, leaving their finances in a total mess. They had to hide the death to buy Mallory time to get those finances in order, which is technically fraud, but hey, they let them go anyways. Bullard can only find evidence that Charles died of a heart attack. The detectives still can't figure out where all those millions from investors actually went, With the death certificate signed by Dr. Sinclair in what is clearly a conflict of interest, Barnaby has had enough. He brings Mallory in for questioning, but when she won't answer without a lawyer present, she and George both wind up in cells until her lawyer gets her out. Sinclair says they had to sedate Charles because he was frittering away millions, but he was treated properly for someone in his condition. You know, maybe despite the freezer burn. Bullard finally confirms that Spencer died in a bath, not the river, so Barnaby sends the force out to search his house, as well as Casement Hall, Sinclair's home, and the McPhersons. Eleanor admits that she knew Darwin was going to die. She had no intention of calling a doctor. He had terrorized them and made them his servants somehow. After driving Mallory home and being told she never wants to speak to him again, George returns to his house to discover it searched by the police. But Eileen tells him not to worry. She had already found his hiding spot and took his plane ticket for South Africa and all the paperwork showing he had taken all the money and put it into buying a classy lodge down there. He's intended to go back to Africa all along, with or without Eileen. Probably without. She informs him that she will stop him from leaving her, whatever it takes. He drives off, and she smashes all his mementos and then carries them out to the backyard and sets them on fire. After nursing a pint at the pub and being harassed by the investors he screwed over, George returns home to find all of his items burned up. As he tries to rescue some objects, someone wearing an African mask approaches him and stabs him with a spear. He drops dead into the ashes. The next day, Eleanor tells the detectives she was in bed after starting an unchecked fire in her backyard and never heard her husband come home. She's actually relieved by his death. Her nightmare of having to live in Africa is finally over. She hands them all the paperwork for the money, admitting she always knew about the fraud, but was cool with it. She says if she had murdered her husband, she would have done it years ago, and claims it was Naomi Sinclair who killed him. They head over to Sinclair's house where they find the car that hit Darwin. Breaking into her home, they listen to an answering machine message from Mallory accusing Sinclair of killing Charles. This probably explains why Naomi is at Casement Hall looking for Mallory. Finding her with the birds, the two have it out, and Mallory reveals she knows Sinclair's the killer. Admitting as such, Sinclair says no one can prove it. She is tired of living off the few crumbs that her sister Mallory has provided her. She's been working with George, and now has a lot of the money. So she plans to frame Mallory for everything, but when Mallory says she will turn her in, Naomi pulls out a knife and attempts to kill her. The two fight, but when the bird cages are open, they begin to attack Naomi's eyes. Barnaby and Troy pull up in time to save Mallory. Later, Pierce reports to them that Moorcroft has turned over his whole network, and she and Troy go off for a drink. Barnaby talks to Mallory, who knows she will have to go to court for her part in the fraud. She won't testify against her sister, but will help return the money, claiming she didn't know about the murders until it was too late. She also will release her birds, so they can know a freedom she never will now. And that was the perfect ending for this episode. However, the show continued, letting us know that Joyce had booked a safari for them where Barnaby will have to ride an elephant the entire time. Should have taken part in that vacation planning, Tom. Our strange kill is George getting stabbed by an African spear by someone wearing an African mask. Now, that was a little bit more ironic than strange, but did have a couple of questions. Like, where did Naomi get the mask from? Did Naomi pull it from the pile before Eileen had set it on fire? Which means, how long was she actually standing there in the dark with the mask and the spear and everything?
Yeah. I didn't see that mask in any on the wall in Charles's part of the house, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just had one lying around.
Mm.
It was one more question in a whole series of questions here.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it. Naomi is the killer. She was part of an investment fraud scheme. The plan seems a little unclear.
A little.
From how I understood it, is that Charles. Now, I guess the question is sort of like, Charles was known for having these ideas and companies around it, and he made him very, very rich. He claimed to have a basically green way of transporting, and then everyone gets the scooter. So, was he just in a delusional state and thought it was the scooter? Or was that their attempt to sort of cover up the fact that he had nothing and had basically just blown, did he actually blow millions away? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what was the plan?
I have no idea. I don't know who, if obviously giving money to someone in the throes of Alzheimer's is not a good idea.
Mhm.
Can we just really emphasize that dementia patients should not have access to funds? I mean, and I had, my family members with this. So yeah, you do not do that.
Where do the invest like who are the investors for this? Because it's three guys in a village.
Mhm.
I don't think you made money off these three guys, millions off these three guys in the village. So you have to assume that there's thousands of there's all these like scooters going out all over
Mhm.
the English countryside. So
Yeah.
they were going to get sued. Like there's no way you could just hide this. This is like massive amounts of fraud.
Yeah.
They would all be sued, investigated, because they're going to be like, "Oh, Charles like just kept everything secret."
Mhm.
Don't, no one's going to buy that, cuz he
Yeah.
would have had to, like, someone would have had to known. And then
Yeah. Yeah, Alzheimer's is normally fairly slowly progressing. There are signs that are along the way. For them to have set this out with the fact that Charles was this brilliant inventor and done all these other things, and he's got another great idea when he's in the throes of Alzheimer's is pretty much fraud from the very beginning, no matter what they were doing.
oh yeah. And so it's clear that Mallory, George, and Naomi are all in on it, right?
Hmm.
But Naomi and George were squeezing Mallory out. Was George blackmailing Naomi or Mallory? Was this a triple cross? We don't really get the answers, do we?
No.
I mean, I'm assuming he's double crossed Naomi,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
that's also, we don't really get Naomi's side of it. And let's face it, she might have just said he's a loose end that needs to you know,
Yeah.
get tied up, and it helps frame my sister.
Hmm.
So the whole fraud plan is just weird.
It's weird, and to be honest, it's not nearly as interesting as the egg stealing, which I think,
Well, that's a
yeah,
heist. That's a simple
yeah,
heist.
it's a simple heist, yeah. But still, yeah.
Now, look, if they were putting an elaborate con,
Mhm,
that's fun. But this is just simple fraud. Not
mhm,
heists and cons are fun. Frauds
yeah,
frauds not.
yeah.
Uh, uh, I love that Naomi, literally with a straight face, is telling Barnaby she took proper care of Charles, and he's like, yeah, except for the whole freezer thing,
Mhm, yeah.
which would be enough to get your medical license revoked. I think
I would think so.
she was pathologically jealous of her sister, who she claimed always got what she wanted. Those
Mm,
fights,
yeah.
like meow.
Yeah, I would have liked to have had some inkling of their background because Naomi went to medical school. She was a doctor. We don't know exactly what kind of doctor, but um, enough to treat an Alzheimer patient on the down low, enough, I guess, which is kind of
Wasn't much
unethical too.
treatment. It wasn't
Mhm.
much treatment. She just drugged him
Yeah,
and gave them the drugs to drug him.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was pretty unethical. But were they brought up? I would think with her falconry pastime and Naomi having enough money to go to medical school that they would have grown up fairly well to do. But you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they were literally keeping him sedated just to like
Mhm,
kind of keep him out of their hair.
mhm,
It did not, that's what it kind of felt like. It's just like, oh,
mm,
go to sleep, Charles, until
mhm,
um, and he was very paranoid about people like them trying to steal the plot or people trying to steal his plan from him. And I was like, yeah, you have a right to be paranoid, even though I know that is I think that is part of Alzheimer's because of the confusion. You're not able to trust people, correct?
mhm. You don't a lot of it is because you don't know who people are, especially new people. I didn't see a whole lot of paranoia with, my dad and, some of the other patients, but, it certainly is possible because, like I said, every Alzheimer's patient is gonna be different.
Yeah. How do you think she was planning to frame Mallory?
I think she was just basically going on the fact that Barnaby already suspected Mallory, and if she did away with her and made it look like she disappeared, that he would think, "Oh, she got away, and we need to put out an international warrant out for her or whatever.
But I mean, she used her own car, is like
Hmm.
to run over Darwin. There was a lot of, again, this didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, a lot didn't make a lot of sense. I don't know um how she knew that. Yeah, how did Naomi A know that Julian was there that night talking to Charles? How did she know that Eddie Darwin was there that night trying to steal eggs so that she could run him over? And how did she move Julian's body from the bathtub all the way down the stairs and into his car? Nothing is really explained.
Perhaps George was involved.
I don't know. Yeah,
I mean,
I know there's
there's a lot of hypotheticals.
yeah,
It is very weird. It does feel like there's an explanation, like this not there.
yeah. The only one that makes sense is her murdering George
Yeah.
because he was demanding more money. Yeah.
Well, Julian, I think, was just be like, well, this guy's complaining. He's making too much noise. We need to shut him up.
Mhm.
Um, Darwin could have been a murder of convenience. She could have just been driving up to the house, like, and seen this
Mhm.
guy coming out of the chicken thing. Also, let's be fair. She could have been in the house and hearing all the hawks and all that stuff making a lot of noise, because Mallory seemed to be deaf and
Mhm.
really didn't hear anything, even though they were making an insane amount of noise. But that's also if you think that, like, Mallory didn't know. Maybe Mallory did hear, and Naomi was in the car.
Mm.
Like, this is the problem. Is like, I feel like we should know this by the end of this
Yeah.
episode, and we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the problems, and I've said that, realistically, none of these people should be talking to the police, but this is one episode where they needed to have the killer talk to the police so she would explain all this because I don't know, we don't understand it.
Mallory doesn't want to testify against her sister, but she like, because like, give her the money back. Like, you do realize that that money cost 3 people their lives.
Yeah. She really doesn't have that much of a choice because she doesn't have any. She's under oath and she is called to the stand. She has to give evidence. I mean,
Yep.
she doesn't have the privilege of not testifying against a spouse.
This whole episode made me scratch my head at the end. So
Yeah.
I did like Mallory's, like, kind of like caustic attitude towards Barnaby and his
Mhm.
questions, like when he's asking, like, about Darwin being there. It's like, I don't know, the birds can't talk and they can't drive, so they clearly didn't kill him. Ma'am, you really don't know who you're pissing off.
Yeah. Though she does do the smart thing and says, "I'm not talking without my lawyer here."
Yes,
I,
lawyered
I,
up.
I not even not talking. I'm refusing to be questioned without my lawyer here.
Yep. Which is about this, like, again, makes her one of the smartest suspects ever on this show.
Yeah. I will say that there's also after she does that and she gets put in the cell and her facade kind of falls down. That is one thing I did like with both her character and Eddie Darwin's is that there is this facade where they're tough and he's bullying these old ladies, but when he's around the Eggman who holds more power than he does, he's a frightened little dude, and he certainly freaks out when he sees a dead body.
What word
So
were you going to say there? No, I mean, you're right. And, like, look how scared he is when the bird, like, he sees the body and he
yeah.
just freaks and runs away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So, yes, I like the way that they worked the dynamic of the bully character and showed it for how weak it could be.
yes. But Mallory didn't think as a bully so much as woman of privilege. Like, I have money, I have
Yeah.
privilege,
She is
and
privileged. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it down. And, like, Barnaby's like, I don't care I don't care who you think you are. If you're gonna sass talk me,
Yeah.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
We had a variation on one of our classic Midsummer lines where she goes and tells the birds Charles is dead, because
Yeah.
you really have to tell the birds and the bees.
Oh, yeah.
Thought that was kind of a cool little variant.
Hmm.
Um, what did
Definitely.
what did you think about that final fight sequence?
I thought that was done very well. I liked, again, cinematography top notch here. Beautiful. I mean, all around there's some beautiful shots of the birds and everything. But I thought it had a very immediate effect of, you've got the birds, they're freaking out and then they get loose and and they start bloodying the person who is a danger to the person that they know and love, you know.
And I think that it was interesting, sort of. It's definitely a gothic horror element to it,
Oh yeah.
but I also thought it was like a nice call out, like another Hitchcockian call out. This time
Mhm.
to the birds, but it reminded me a little bit of Written in Blood, where they have the psycho call out.
Mhm.
But I mean, when you hear Naomi's screams, and then the 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 blood around the eyes, which is
Yeah.
all straight from the birds.
Yeah. They are the writers and the producers and the cinematographers, they do know their history of mysteries,
Yes.
which is great. Yeah.
Yep. And then Mallory at the very end, she has that face of a woman who has lost everything,
Mhm.
and she's about to get rid of her birds.
Yeah, she's releasing a non-native bird into the a couple non-native birds into the wild.
Yeah, yeah. She just said, yeah, at the end of the episode, "I'm setting this hawk free." It's like, did you just send a hungry hawk out into the world?
Yeah.
Nice job, lady. Still thinking with that privilege.
Yep.
And that final shot of the bird flying away, or if that had been the final shot,
Mhm.
that I thought would have been a perfect ending to this show, to this
Mhm.
episode. And then we had to get more of that Africa thing.
Well, I mean, you knew that they were going to come back to it, and that Joyce was going to have have it all planned and everything, and it would be kind of goofy because there aren't elephant back safaris in Africa. At least I hope there weren't at that time. There certainly aren't now.
We'll talk about that in home life,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just had that wonderful kind of like a kind of nice quiet ending, and then it just,
Yeah.
we're gonna slap. Might as well just make a lame joke, and we'll end on a freeze frame.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to make it, yeah, because it was very poignant. And sometimes you have those poignant endings that's like, yeah, that's where they should have ended it. We've had a few episodes already where it's like they'd only cut it and not done that little family bit at the end. That would have been perfect. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about George and your namesake, Eileen. Um, George, clearly a con artist from the start. He's not even a major; he was just a sergeant.
Hmm.
So, but he had lived in Africa for a very long time, and he had all those mementos. Just made me think of colonialization so hard.
Yeah, it was definitely a very colonial type of collection.
Yes, uh, he hates living in England, but Eileen hates Africa. Both, and she makes it clear she hates both the country and the people, which not a good look.
Yeah. And I'm not sure where they were in Africa, if she was, and who the people she was referring to, if it was just the other colonial people that were there, or if it was the black Africans, but either way,
I
yeah.
think let's be. I think we know which one she was talking about.
I have a feeling we do too. So
Yeah.
anyway, she's a very different Eileen from me. I loved Africa. I was just there and I loved it.
They tried to give it vaguely, like there's a scene where we're kind of looking at the stuff in
Mhm.
George's office, and the music gets this. It's not quite. It's not like they're using African music, but you could tell they're kind of using more traditional African instrumentation
Mhm.
for the music. And then George celebrates with a dance. I googled like African dances to try to find like this kind of
Mhm.
dance. I could not find it. The closest I think is that maybe he's trying to do what's called the juba,
Mm.
which is
Okay.
also which is also sort of like where I think like it's like a lot of slapping of the legs and the knees, but also it's like a various. I think it's kind of a precursor to like tap dance and all that.
Mm. Okay.
But frankly, did it not look more like he was doing like the Bavarian slap dance?
Yeah, or the one where they do in some of the other episodes where they have the bells on their ankles kind of thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
it looked just odd, and I was like, that does not. Then again, this was that more problematic period of Midsummer.
There was some, yeah.
What if I just dance like this? Well, that yeah, no one's gonna know.
Yeah. I found it funny that when we're seeing the first time we see the other Eileen, she's
Mhm.
trimming the bushes when Barnaby first arrives, and she's cutting off all the branches with the leaves, or she's just cutting off the top with the leaf. And all I got with this whole Morticia Adams, trimming her roses so that's just the thorny stems because she finds
Yeah.
the roses so ugly. Yeah, So I just thought that was a very funny,
Well, she likes to
funny
break
scene.
things. She likes like she smashed all of George. Like when she's smashing all of George's stuff, I'm like, yeah, it feels good, right?
Yeah, and then she burns it all.
With way too much gasoline,
Yeah, that was a
just
lot.
pouring it, just pouring and pouring. Like
It's all
that's
wood. It's gonna burn.
yeah. Also, it's gonna go up in an instant
Yeah.
and set you on fire and probably your house because you didn't go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole going to bed thing was weird. Yeah.
I set an uncontrolled fire loose in my backyard and didn't seem to take any precautions whatsoever. And
Yeah.
then and then it was nighty night Eileen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just, yeah, that fire should have like burned a lot of the grass around. It should have probably caught the house on fire.
Oh god, yeah.
A lot of trees. Yeah. That was yeah. Do not, yeah, just, PSA here, do not do that kind of fire in your backyard.
And if you do, you didn't hear it from us. Let's talk about the McPhersons and Darwin. And I
Yeah.
think the big question here is, what the heck happened there?
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I thought that maybe he was a nephew or like a younger brother or something and just kind of moved in and took over the house because
Now, they mention a detail at one point that he's clerk to the council. So I was
yeah.
kind of wondering if maybe he was using like his powers as the clerk against them and that's why they had to do it. But it's never explained.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't think the clerk has that much power.
Yeah.
But or if he was blackmailing them or something, he had found out something in the records and was blackmailing them. It's never explained. All we know is that he is being a horrible person to them. He's brutalizing them both financially and emotionally. I mean, we call him their boarder, but I mean, a boarder pays rent. Is he even paying rent? He's stealing money from them.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question is like, we don't know how it got there. And it's, they're not incapable. These women were not shown to be incapable. So like,
Yeah.
if he's terrorizing them, he must have like have control over them.
Yeah.
But how?
How?
It's not clear because I don't believe for a second that if like he didn't have blackmail on it, they would be like, no, we're gonna go get the cops. This guy's like behaving like a Looney Tune, threatening us. Get him out of our
Yeah.
house.
And I found that a much more interesting mystery than the whole fraud scooter murders.
But it's not meant to be a mystery.
I know but it should have been, and they should have unfolded that as a nice mystery and finally kind of explained how he got control over them.
Yeah.
That would have been much more interesting.
Well, I mean, that's because they don't really. There's no mystery there. It's just like every 2 hours they are like they decide to like just tell the police more.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna tell. Okay, this is the promise. This is the very very last time. But also when he died, we knew he was gonna die. Like, so, are they responsible for his death for not calling the doctor or the police, knowing that he was like his wounds were probably fatal?
I don't know. I mean, he told them not to call the doctor, but that was before he became delirious.
Yeah, like they said they knew he was going to die, and she's like, I was absolutely never going to call him a doctor.
Yeah,
Which is like, okay,
that's not a good thing to admit to the police.
yeah, that's still a crime. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Now,
Even in Midsomer.
Yeah. Now, if they had given more of an explanation as to how he got control over them, or I mean, we knew he was a monster. He was bullying them. He was a bully, and
to the point where it's like they freaked out if they didn't have like I need pork sausages for breakfast,
Yeah.
and like they're terrified of like sausages, and then of course he's like a baby man, just like, no, this is meat sausages. I'm gonna just toss this. But I did kind of like that when he was injured, they're like, shall we have cocoa?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next morning, Jane is very relaxed and is gathering flowers for him and says, "Oh, I think he'll like these." And it's like, okay, but he was like very badly injured, and you had already decided you weren't going to call the police and we're going to let him die. So
I did like that scene
there?
I did like that scene where it was like Jane's like, so he's dead then? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
A lovely little just matter of fact moment between those two. And then, of course, as you know, Darwin was involved in the black market for eggs, or the egg black market, however you want to call it,
Yeah.
uh, featuring the Eggman.
Cuckoo.
I was also, yeah, I was thinking, I was also thinking the Beastie Boys.
Oh,
There's a
I was
lot of
thinking the
Eggmen.
Beatles,
Yeah.
which makes, I guess, Darwin the walrus.
No, he's Paul.
The walrus is Paul.
Paul is dead. I did think the Eggman, like threatening him and then like crushing an egg
Yeah.
as like a threat, was like, that's more funny than scary.
Yeah.
He also can crush an egg. It's an egg.
It's an egg. Yeah. They're known for being fragile.
Yeah. There was that scene where they're in the blind watching him, and he's watching him back with the binoculars. He's like clearly
Yeah.
staring at him.
Yeah.
So I did look. So rare eggs can be sold for like thousands of pounds,
Mm-hmm.
but the consequences on the species tend to be more based on, because the more expensive eggs are the
Mm-hmm.
rarer or the more endangered birds.
Yeah.
For example, in 2010, a businessman stole 14 rare falcon eggs in Dubai, totaling 70,000 pounds.
Wow.
So that was interesting. It was like there is a real world
Yeah.
black market for these things.
And I did think of doing the history on wildlife crime, but that sounded like very depressing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did look up because Darwin mentions that he's wants an osprey egg, and the Eggman goes kind of crazy, like, oh my gosh. But ospreys are not rare. We see them all the time.
Yeah.
And there's only one species of osprey out there. There are some subspecies out there, and they are, in North America, they're in Europe, they're in South America. They are
Yeah.
a shorebird. They're the only species in the Pandionidae family, which Darwin mentions as wanting to complete. So basically, if he gets the only one, he has completed it. The
It's his Pokemon.
yeah, the Achapitidroid, which would be far harder to complete because there are 250 species in that family all over the world, but only about a dozen are native to Britain, though some do go there on others on occasion. So
I mean, he
it's
can only steal so much money from little old ladies.
yeah. So it's yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that they kind of didn't get that part right.
No.
Yeah, it just I have liked doing bird watching, and I did kind of look at the difference between hawks and falcons, which is basically the size of the wings. Hawk, one of them has thinner wings than the other one does. So,
Can you tell the difference of birds like Troy?
oh yeah, we'll get to the detective work because he's terrible at it. Because yeah,
No, he can't. Like, let's do the detective work. He cannot. He cannot uh, uh, identify birds to save his life.
yeah. Yeah, the bird they're looking for, the Sarin, is not native to the UK. There's only one species of the genus in Europe, and they're very small birds in the finch family. So you know how big finches are, and he's
Mhm.
looking at these raptors, the buzzards and the kites, and he's identifying those as a small finch-like bird. So he is really terrible at this.
Well, I also think that they might have been using stock footage.
Oh yeah, well yeah. But also, the European Sarins breed in Central Europe and Northern Africa, so there's no way that they would be breeding in
Yeah.
in England.
I like that Troy was working with Pierce in the wildlife division, although apparently he didn't give a single thought about maybe he should not wear a suit.
Mm-hmm.
You're going out in the woods, man.
Yeah.
And he's clearly got the crush on Pierce. He jumps straight out of the car to open that fence right into the mud like a
Yeah.
gentleman. And then Barnaby gives him crap for being muddy, as he should, because that was real dumb. I thought that Troy and Pierce had really nice chemistry.
I did too. I thought that would have been a nice little development with their. I mean, obviously, this is Troy's last season, full season. So
Yeah.
it would have been nice for him to at least mention to her when he was like getting his.
Yeah. Riding off into the sunset. Like maybe,
Yeah.
like Pierce, it would have been nice, but
Yeah.
they didn't do that.
Yeah. But they did get a date at least.
Yes. Look, maybe she had a gay cousin, and he couldn't keep his mouth shut about
Mhm. One thing that confused me, is, for the second time they were getting ready to go out, and Troy is actually dressed for actually doing the wildlife, uh, standing on the bird blind thing. It was why did Barnaby call him off that? Because as far as he knew, at that point, Julian had still probably committed suicide. I mean, they were still investigating it. He hadn't gotten the results back from Bullard's test on the water and the lungs. So I don't understand why he was called him off other than they just wanted Troy in those scenes.
because Barnaby doesn't take wildlife crime seriously.
Apparently not.
Nope. I wanted to know, how do they have all that manpower to search all those places at the same time?
Yeah.
Like, we've called away every single other police officer in Midsomer to search these homes.
Yeah.
Crime spree. They don't even bother to have a reason to break and enter. He's like, sir, do we need a reason? It's like, no. Smash.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, they don't actually solve the murders. Yeah. I mean, as far as we know, and he says Mallory, he's accusing Mallory right up to the point where Eileen tells him no, it's her sister Naomi who's the murderer.
And how does she know?
Yeah, I know. How does she know? And they look surprised at all of this, as we were, because Naomi had been kind of a non-entity.
Well, I mean, in fairness, she parked the murder weapon in her garage, and
Mhm.
she left that incriminating message on her answering machine. They would have found it. It
Mhm.
wasn't. There was no deductive reasoning. They would have found it, but it was
Yeah.
funny like that. Oh, did you notice that Troy's driving has gotten better?
Oh, yeah. He
Yeah.
didn't hit anybody.
He actually got them to the funeral in the nick of time.
Didn't run anybody off the road.
Yeah. All right. As we discussed in the home life, Tom and Joyce's scenes centered around Joyce wants to go on vacation to Africa, and Tom does not.
Tom just never seems to want to go on vacation.
He is a curmudgeon. Tom is a curmudgeon. For a police detective as smart as him, he has no real curiosity about the outside world. Whereas Joyce is super excited. She wants all the brochures that Cully is getting from them.
Mm.
Cully, we get one brief appearance. It's been a while since we've seen Cully. She's working as a travel agent, and apparently can get them a deal. So I guess this was in Cully's multiple career phase.
Yeah.
Where it's like every
Yeah.
episode she's like, she's a librarian. No, she's an actress. No,
Mm.
she's this.
Yeah, I did think she had a couple of episodes where she was actually a working at the travel agency. Yeah.
And then like Tom's like, what about crime? It won't go away, Dad. And it's like, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, you are in the murder capital of the world, and you're doing nothing to stop it.
I like that when she handed him all the brochures and in the car, I really just expected him to just like look, like just wait for her to go around a corner and then just chuck him out the window.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, Joyce is cooking him something African, which apparently is ostrich.
Yeah.
It's the only thing at the store that seems African. And I'm like, Joyce, you know they have like chicken and fish and beef in Africa, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the meat that
Yeah.
makes it African.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the preparation. Yeah. And the spices.
Yes.
Yeah. She actually, I thought it was interesting because she referenced an old American TV show, Daktari, from the late 60s, about a veterinarian in East Africa, the star Marshall Thompson, who Barnaby says is probably a pensioner by now. He actually had died in 1992. No luck for Joyce there on hooking up with a very elderly gentleman.
Yeah.
I had not heard of that show, so.
I vaguely remember, like, I like Daktari. I vaguely remember, like, I've heard references to it. I don't even think it's really streaming or anything like that. Not that I would ever look.
Yeah.
Why would
I
I
did
look?
look. I did look because I was wondering, Man from Daktari, what is that? And why does she still have a crush on this guy?
Yeah. So final thoughts.
Um, this is just one of those that I keep thinking should have been better than it was. I mean, it's not bad. It just needed to have more explanation on things. I know that they want to avoid as much exposition as possible, but a little bit helps.
Yeah, it did not feel well written at all.
Yeah.
There was things that it just not explaining anything. Things didn't make sense. There was no
Mm.
everything seemed like a first draft.
Yeah. Yeah, and it didn't feel fleshed out.
Things were never taken to the logical conclusion of what people might want to know
Yeah.
or what they should explain. Like even things like, why would George run to South Africa in a fraud case? It's not like they're a non-extradition country.
Yeah, it's one that had some interesting elements that didn't get developed as well as they should have, and things were not explained. Again, if it's a murder that comes out of left field because we don't engage with her enough to really see her as a suspect. We don't know how much she's involved with this before, and it's weird. It should have been better because
Yeah.
there were some interesting premises to it.
Honestly, I hate to say it, it's because they spent so much time with Darwin and the McPhersons
Mhm.
and didn't explain that either.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like they jammed 2 episodes into one. Like the
Mm.
guy had like two ideas and then just jammed them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And neither one of them got fully developed.
Yeah. I still don't know why people got killed. I mean, why was Julian killed? How was he killed? How did Naomi know that these things were going on? Yeah. I would have like I said, this needed that sit down with the murderer at the end and some darn good answers.
Yeah, it needed a lot of it just this I mean straight up I could just say this is not a well and if you were the writer and there's like a bunch of scenes that the director took out, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
right now, it's like the written product that is on the screen is half finished.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does feel like there were things left out either in the writing process or in the editing process.
And it left like other than I say Anton Lesser, because I did
Mhm.
remember his character from this.
Yeah.
This whole episode is not memorable at all because of this.
Yeah, for me, the thing that's memorable is Anton Lesser and the Old Ladies. That's my mnemonic on it,
I didn't even remember the old ladies. I just remembered
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there are parts of it that I think are nicely done. Like I said, I think this portrayal of this bullying man who's a really small man when he has somebody else threatening him is very good.
Yeah.
There's beautiful cinematography of the birds, which I do appreciate because I do love going birding. So, but it just needed to be more developed.
Or maybe just less Africa talk. I don't know.
I mean, to be honest, they could have left out a lot of that subplot because it didn't add anything to it. Yeah.
Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. Now, if you have anything you want to discuss about Birds of Prey or Midsummer Murders in general, please feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, just say so in your email. We are also Welcome to Midsummer on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please follow us on all those places. You can also message us on these places. We even got a message on Instagram the other day that I thought was really nice. This is from Nina, and this would have been come in around the time for this is discussing Painted in Blood, I believe. Hello, I'm interrupting my listening to the current episode to say that Elliot Gould was also in one of the top 10 movies of all times, The Silent Partner, 1978. Now we did comment that one of the actresses had been had done like a lot of big screen work, and then we kind of teased Elliot Gould a little bit. I'm not saying it precisely makes him equivalent to Ingmar Bergman, but I am saying that if I can get you two to enjoy the unduly forgotten Silent Partner, I will have partly paid you back for the many hours of enjoyment your podcast has brought me. Please feel free to share the gospel of Elliot Gould and the Silent Partner on the podcast. Thank you.
All right. Well, I will definitely check that one out.
Thank
I
you,
love
Nina.
Elliot Gould in many of his movies, and he's done some really nice stuff. Obviously MASH being probably my favorite movie of his, but he's also done some other terrific stuff.
It is. I am looking right now. It is currently available to rent. It also has Christopher Plummer.
Ooh, I love Christopher Plummer, especially when he's tearing up a Nazi flag.
Yep. I've never heard of this film. I will definitely have to check it out. I love these things, and I like Elliot Gould. I do think there is that the 70s are great because in a sense Elliot Gould for a while was the #1 box office star.
Yeah.
Only in America, man.
Well, I think there's this whole thing because he's not a traditional leading man, but in the 70s we didn't have those traditional leading men except for Robert Redford and like Paul Newman. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, the 70s kind of expanded our notion of, who could play those leading roles.
Yep. And then the 80s took it right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes and Spotify. That helps people find us. Tell all your friends about us. Please turn on your automatic downloads to help fight the algorithm. We will be back soon, and we hope that you will join us again. As we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, stealing falcon eggs can be murder.
And it's just weird, too.
Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act, fair use exception for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space.